And just like that, through the miracle of time travel and video, we have a new front main sill to put in our housing. And a new bolt. You guys might remember a few videos ago I was pretty happy that I had found a good bolt, since I basically rounded the head off of one. It's almost like the heads of these guys are designed to be rounded off. Why would you taper it? Why wouldn't it be straight? Whatever. So I'm gonna take the old guide and do just a little slash cut in there and chase it through the crankshaft, because the threads felt a little odd, kind of engaging, and then we'll put this guy back in. But yeah, we'll swap our sill back, and now we got to put everything back together. Hooray! Aren't we glad we did it all yesterday? I'm glad we did all the disassembly yesterday. Put our new little sills in and everything. Here we go. Final reassembly. In 20 years from now, people are going to be like, what are those things in his ear? So that was like super easy. I just used the old Harbor Freight sill press driver. These guys are just like aluminum pucks in different sizes. I used the 72 millimeter guy. Push it in, a little shorter guy to push it out. And they work great along with the little press. Short work. So I did want to mention something while I'm sporting my wildly in support of my sloppy t-shirt and the sloppy way. It's fun to do stuff fast and be successful and all that good stuff. There's also times when you have to ask, like, to me, like the whole sloppy deal is a bit about like what's the economics of, you know, how are you reaching your goal for what point? I mean, you can throw endless amount of money at something to reach your goal, and that might be something you enjoy doing. No problem, man, and do that. You know, you do what you want with your money. For me, growing up poor, I always have a hard time spending money. To this day, I still do it, and so it's real. It makes sense in my mind to do things economically, frugally, if you will. There's things that just don't make sense though sometimes, like a front sill, you know, as a $20 part, and if I throw this all back together, it took me, I think, two hours to get everything out. I had the whole ordeal with a crank pulley for the first time I've ever had trouble with the crank pulley. Blah 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 blah. How is that time valued? What is that? What does 4 hours mean to you? Is 4 hours worth $20? That's something you might want to think and consider, think about and consider. And a lot of times when I'm throwing when I'm throwing the engine all back together, let's say I got a long block from the wrecking yard or eBay, whatever, shows up, go through it, you check the mechanicals. We tend to trust a lot of these LS sills and where, you know, not disposable items, what's the word I'm looking for, like durable parts to this thing. You know, a sill, a silicone sill, mostly that kind of stuff. It's cheap, easy to replace, and you know, how many hours might it save you? Like, think if you had to get a whole project together and you have to pull it all apart, drop your tranny, and pull off the rear because your, you know, rear main sill wasn't good, or whatever the case might be. So there's just things taken into consideration. A lot of people, I think, in their mind, sloppy means just as cheap and as horribly trashy as possible. And I get that with my friends. Like, even my friends think that maybe that's my mode of being, and I'm not really. I'm pretty actually meticulous. I like to have things like really well laid out, planned out, executed well, as best that I can do them. But I might look at a part and be like, yeah, I'll just reuse those bolts or that head gasket. But that has to be judged in where you're at, what it's going to cost you, and in the long run, what it's going to cost you. So just some things to think of. I'm going to go ahead and get this, clean out that crankshaft bolt like I told you guys I would, and get this thing thrown back together. So you can heat those guys up. People are gonna say like, oh, it's gonna melt the sill. Well, the sills are made to operate at relatively high engine temperatures. And the trick is you don't have to melt the metal. You don't have to really melt the metal till you just heat it up. If you can heat it up and you can get to where you got some pair of gloves and you can kind of touch it and kind of hold it for a minute without it being so hot that you can't hold, then you're probably pretty good. That heat seeps through it and the whole thing expands. The bad thing is it's an interference or a press fit on the crankshaft. So the second you stick that guy into the crankshaft's stone cold, and metal does what metal does. It heat transfers, and it's going to stop when you stop. So I got on there and I was able to turn it, you know, for a second or two, and I was able to get it pretty lined up with the dowel. Luckily, I was able enough to get the dowel in there, and when I smacked it, it kind of spun it over, and everything lined up. We're good, but just stuff to keep in mind. You don't have to bring it up to like liquid metal temperature. Just needs to be hotter than the crankshaft, and there you go. Bam. Got 4 non-blondes in the ear here. What do you know about that? That's how old I am. So, we did this, just pulled the vacuum, and we do have a vacuum on the coolant system, so that's good. That means we should be able to refill it. I checked the oil. We put oil, remember we took 2 quarts out so it wasn't like everywhere when we took the front off. So yeah, I mean, I think I've checked everything. And yeah, we still need to put water in there, but I figure I'd rather like to try to start and see if it'll start, because if I have to rip the front of the engine off anyway, it's not gonna have done us any good to have put water in the car. So that is where we are at, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. So we will kick it over and kind of see what happens. All right, so we're gonna, we did the TPS auto set, and we loaded the tune. Well, I took off the cabinet and changed it over a little bit, did some stuff. So we should start. We should at least have a cranking signal. That'd be a good start, I guess. Seeing as we had nothing but stall before. Hooray! Hooray! We got fire, so that's, at least that's a good thing. It doesn't sound like it's firing well, but fire's good. We can start from there. It's a good place to be. The thing hasn't ran under its own power for, I don't know, like a year maybe. It's been way too long, so now it's just cleaning up. It's just getting stuff to talk to stuff, getting the computer to do what it's supposed to do, putting things back together. Woohoo! Bit of relief, I guess. I mean, it doesn't sound horrible. I mean, it sounds like it's running, but I'm not really good with sounds and engines and stuff, so. Oil pressure, it was like boom, right to 60. Fuel pressure's good, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with the crank. So water and other things, and Success Boys, kind of, sort of.